Hello and welcome to each and every one of you who has joined me today on this Limitless show on this 14th of September evening. The more we have advanced in medical sciences and medical care, the more we are floundering and struggling with diseases, just trying to treat the symptoms, but forgetting to treat the causes. Our guest for today, Dr. Neelima Deshpande, is not only a specialist in gynecology, menopause, sexual and reproductive health, but also has special skills in hypnotherapy, EMDR, EFT, NLP, and the Lefkoe method. Not only that, she is also a WILDFIT coach, and she's a Meipadam and Karlakattai coach. Not to forget, she's also a speaker, trainer, author, coach, and entrepreneur. She has 3 decades of international experience in women's healthcare. She has treated over 10,000 women across all age groups with gynecological, obstetric, urinary, and sexual problems, and also created a systematic treatment plan for women over 40 years of age with health education, functional movement training, and optimal nutrition through digital platform. And she has reached over 26,000 women on social media since November 2020. And she's also the author of Menopause Made Easy, 121 Tips to Guide and Inspire, which is available on Amazon. So let's bring on Dr. Neelima Deshpande with a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Rakhi Singhi, for saying she's your beautiful friend. Thank you so much for joining us over here. Hey, Neelima.
Hi, good
Thank you.
evening. Good
Good
evening.
evening. Thank you so much for joining me over here. So
Thank you
excited
for
to have
having me.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So, Neelima, I mean, you started out as an allopathic doctor specializing in gynecology and obstetrics. And what turn did your life take that you ended up, becoming a WILDFIT coach, a Meipadam coach, and, all the hypnotherapy and NLP? How did all of that happen?
It's interesting, in our lives, sometimes our most painful days are the ones that give rise to our deepest growth. And
Correct.
I'm just going to quote a mentor of mine, Eric Edmeades, and he talks about something called the hindsight window. And today, when I look back on the most painful days of my life, I cannot but be grateful that they existed, because today, everything that I've created, everything that I am, all the friends I have, all the amazing connections that I have are because of the pain points that I experienced. So it was because of my spinal surgery. I had spinal surgery in 2003 after getting my dream job. I was the first female Asian consultant obstetrician at the Birmingham Women's Hospital in the UK. And it was like a dream come true. It was the highest pinnacle of success. And
Right.
unfortunately, within 3 weeks of taking up that job, I developed a disc prolapse. And I needed, I was disabled by the pain, so I needed surgery after 8 weeks and then reoperated after that. And I was in severe pain and discomfort for, many, many years. And
Mm-hmm.
every year or so, I tried to discover a way to reinvent myself, to try and find a treatment modality that would address both the psychological and physical pain I was going through. And like most people, those of us who've gone through health challenges know that the medical system, wherever you go in the world, is woefully inadequate. Other than prescribing pills, painkillers and antidepressants and stuff, there isn't much available. I remember a funny thing, actually being referred to go to a counselor, and I went to sit there in this NHS hospital. And it wasn't an appointment with this counselor, and she didn't even look at me. And I thought, oh my God, this is the state of the healthcare where even the counselor actually needs a counselor. And they
Yes.
haven't figured out a way to uplift themselves, to protect themselves, and to care for themselves. I mean, I was relatively immature in terms of psychological well-being and learning how to protect myself. So I didn't understand what she was going through. Now, fast forward so many years, I experimented with these techniques in order to help myself. And in the process, I ended up helping a lot of people along the way. And the key breakthrough moment happened when I signed up for WILDFIT after debating for many months whether I should do it or not. And, sometimes our arrogance gets in the way of our own well-being. And I was like, yeah, I've been studying nutrition for so many years. I'm a gynecologist. I know about evidence-based medicine. I can read the papers. I know how to study. I know enough about nutrition. But even knowing stuff doesn't mean you can apply it. It
Right.
doesn't mean you can live it.
Yes.
Somebody else's wisdom is not your wisdom. And
Correct.
you and I both know that it is experiential wisdom that you apply every day in your life that gives you the results. So when I did WildFit in February 2019, I experienced one of the most magical breakthroughs in my health. My pain disappeared, my depression lifted, anxiety kind of went. Just 4 weeks into the program, I found myself being genuinely grateful for being alive, which was something I'd had to work on before. It wasn't something that came easy. It
Right.
wasn't a natural process for me like it should be. Like all the
Hmm.
books tell us, you should be grateful when you wake up in the morning. It didn't work for me like that. I had to
Right.
teach myself to be grateful. But when I did WildFit, the brain fog lifted, all of this irritability lifted, and I was like just grateful. And that
Wow.
was magical. My joint swellings
Wow.
went away, my bladder improved. I was suffering with severe fibromyalgia before that as a consequence of the back pain,
Correct.
severe headaches, migraines, not being able to work, very low energy. I used to fall asleep, and I used to be afraid of driving because I'd start driving and I'd start to fall asleep. And that was one of the most
Hmm.
frightening things I've experienced. And while
Right.
it came along, and you can imagine what a transformation that was, because when I did WildFit, I actually I was working in Bhutan. I'd moved to Bhutan
Hmm.
during week 4 of WildFit. I was in a full-time job, which I hadn't done since 2003. As an
Hmm.
obstetrician gynecologist, I was working nights um, every second or third day, doing clinics, operating. And my flat was on the fourth floor, labor room was on the third floor, wards were on the fourth floor. And I could do all these stair climbing up and down, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and it didn't even phase me. So that
Wow.
is like that was such a huge realization for me of what
Right.
wildlife has done for my health, and it was, um, for somebody who changes happen slowly. Sometimes it can be difficult to notice that things have changed. But for me, the watershed was so clear that I couldn't deny that the way Wildfit was designed actually converted me completely. And of course, Rakhi, who is here today, she has been a very, very good friend, and she and I started working together on my menopause course in November 2020, and we kind of
Mhm.
progressed through last year. And when the opportunity came up to become a WildFit coach, Rakhi was already one at that time, and she's India's first WildFit coach. She
Amazing.
egged me on. She said, "No, no, no, you've got to do this. Women need you. You've got to do this. You've got to do this. Come on."
Hmm.
So I became a WildFit coach, and at the same time, I experienced Meipadam. And Meipadam was the next level in fitness, in terms of functional fitness. So
Right.
last year was like an amazing year to transform not only my health, but also a new step in a career which completely transformed how I looked at women's health, because I was seeing the changes in my own body. So I
Right.
hope it's a long answer to your question, but I hope it kind of gave an origin story of where.
Absolutely. No, we wanted this actually. I mean, if you wouldn't have described it, it would be
Yeah.
difficult for us to understand. I think this story was very important, very powerful.
And one of the magical things I experienced when I started doing Meipadam and Karlakattai was all the learning that I had, all the psychological stuff, whether it was NLP, whether it was EFT, EMDR, bilateral movement, energy, all of this stuff came together as I started teaching about menopause, as I started dealing with the psychological effects that menopause causes, or hormonal effects cause in women, and how Meipadam and Karlakattai was completely transforming my mental health and also of the people who were participating in the training with me.
Wow. So beautiful. And then Rakhi along with you. I mean, you both have done everything.
Yes, yes. Then we
You
joined
conduct
hands.
classes.
Yeah, we kind of put our heads together and thought it would be great to put our strengths and our skills and our abilities together and leverage it, because I think together we are much stronger than we would ever be alone.
Absolutely. How beautiful. So then, Neelima, thank you for sharing this. And I understand that you had this journey where you understood that the medicine does not really by itself has the power. You need to combine it along with nutrition, along with functional movement, and so many other things. And, then it works psychologically on you and from the inside, basically.
Yes, yes.
Right.
I teach a lot in my courses, the women who attend, I tell them that there is no medicine, there is no doctor who heals you. Your body is
Right.
healing you. The
Right.
medicine or the doctor, they're just a catalyst. They're
Hmm.
to give you, they're like a crutch. They give you the time that you need to go and look at this root causes and fix them. And when
Absolutely.
you do that, then you don't need the medicines anymore. Of course, each person is different, and the duration of their illness or their ailment will determine how quickly and how long it takes for them to come off the medicines. But honestly, as a doctor, I
Hmm.
don't like prescribing medicines and I don't like taking medicines. So because I've taken painkillers for so long, I know their side effects.
Right. Right.
But, if anything happened to me, if I died
Hmm.
before I did WILDFIT, like I was at risk of uh,
Uh-huh.
with the depression and anxiety, I think my liver would have been showing all of the effects of overdosing of paracetamol because I've eaten so
Absolutely.
many painkillers in my life.
Correct. Correct.
And
So,
now I'm
did
not
you
at risk.
also go through all of the detoxification process? Did Wildfit help you in
Yes,
detoxification of your body? And then further with your Meipadam and everything?
your body is an amazing, amazing system, and it knows how to detox if
Hmm.
you give it the right stuff. So if it is nutritionally topped up and you have movement and you have all of your other pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, it's not just about exercise and nutrition, it's about also your environment, your social environment, your support, how well you sleep, what kind of stuff you read, how strict you are about your circadian rhythm. So many things go into that. But when you get that right, when you dial that right, your body is an amazing detoxing system in itself. So, while fit is one very, very crucial, important key to detoxification, it's not the only
Hmm.
one. You need all of the other ingredients as well. But
Hmm.
you learn that. And once your body has the nutritional needs dialed in, it will detox
Hmm.
automatically.
Wow. Thank you. I think that helps because people always look at things individually that, okay, let me go for a detox. Let me
No,
drink the juices, only juices for 3 days. And,
there,
my,
there, there is no detoxing system that can replace the
right,
intelligence of your own body
own
and
body.
mastery with which it achieves that. You
Hmm.
need to give it what it needs, which is very simple. You meet all of its nutritional needs, and it is perfectly efficient at
Hmm.
removing the toxins that enter our system through our everyday stuff. You're not doing anything special by just having a coffee enema or just having juices. There's more
Right,
toxins entering. They're
right.
entering through the air you breathe, through the water you drink, through the
Hmm.
stuff you apply on your skin,
Hmm.
the personal care products, the stuff you use to clean your house. So just having a coffee enema won't solve that.
Yes, so true. So you have also created a treatment plan for women who are above 40 years of age and where you utilize the functional movement training and optimal nutrition. So what is this treatment plan all about? Is it also for chronic diseases and all of these things? And can the same thing also be applied to men?
Yes. So I designed it because I'm a woman going through menopause, and I discovered that I didn't know enough about the
Hmm.
experience of menopause in spite of being a gynecologist and treating so many women going through menopause.
Right.
Because my pain symptoms, the symptoms I was going through, overlapped with menopause, and I didn't even realize how magnified those effects were and what the risks were that I didn't know about until I started teaching,
Right.
until I started developing it. So when I realized, my God, this is a really huge unmet need, and the fact that menopause is quite a young specialty, there's going to be an explosion of women over the age of 40 in the coming 5 to 10 years globally, as well as in India particularly, because you look all around you and the status of basic healthcare in our country is poor. and basic nutrition is poor, and women's healthcare in particular has received very little attention. Most of the attention is on pregnancy, reproduction, and assisted reproductive techniques. There's very little attention given to women over the age of 40. And it was brought to me as a big shock because I lost 4 friends, one after the other. One died in her sleep, psychological disturbances, relationship problems. We never knew what she died of. Another died of diabetic complications. A cousin died of hypertensive disorders in her sleep. Another died of pancreatic cancer. Another died of breast cancer. And this was like 1 or 2 years. This just kept happening every other month. And all of these women were between the ages of 50 and 55. When I started looking at the research around increased mortality for women, I found it's not just that women are dying of these illnesses, but the fact that our healthcare system is not designed to meet the needs of women. And then I discovered that actually in a country as large as India, we have only 50,000 gynecologists, of which majority, 70 to 80% of them are focused on reproductive health care. They're focused on obstetric care, women wanting to have babies. And the culture in our country is that everybody has to get married and everybody has to have kids.
Right.
Only very recently that couples living in cities like Mumbai or Delhi are choosing to not have kids. So this group of women between the ages of 40 and 60 are the most vulnerable. They have the highest risk of developing illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, cancers, whether it's cervical, breast, endometrial, ovarian, bowel cancers. They are the women who are most likely to be set up for suffering osteoporosis, for suffering things like Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And women are 4 times more likely than men to suffer Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So I designed this plan because I realized that women need to be empowered. It is not enough to expect that they may or may not find a gynecologist they can discuss these problems with. They need to be empowered so that they know what the risks are, that they know what to learn about their own health and how to monitor it, and to lose the fear of growing old so that they can actually look forward to at least 30 years. Because remember, life expectancy in India now is 79 years for women. At independence, it was only 37 yeyears.
Right.
So women are expected to live after the age of 50 for another 30 years. What is the quality of your life if you develop you need a cardiac bypass, or you've got dementia, or you end up with a hip fracture, or
absolutely
you're obese? Quality of life is very poor. It's not great. And I knew for me, I don't want to live like that. And I kind of assumed, rightly or wrongly, that no other woman wants to live like that. And certainly those 5, 6 friends of mine who died, their families did not want to lose them.
Absolutely.
And you know that anywhere in the world, a woman is actually the center of the family.
Yes.
She is, whether you call her great or not, but she is the hub. She binds the family together.
Yes.
She binds generations together, grandparents, kids. She binds 2 families, families of the husband and wife. If you lose a woman, if you lose a mother,
a system collapses.
That hub is gone.
Yes.
And we know from research that losing a mother, losing a woman, has an effect on 7 generations. The loss of that integral person who binds a family together, psychological well-being, the physical well-being, the spiritual progress, the financial well-being of that unit is compromised for 7 generations. So every life that is saved has a huge impact. And that's what motivated me to design a system which has education at its heart, which has empowerment of the woman at its heart. And remember, just because you empower a woman, there's going to be a domino effect, right? So every woman who learns how to look after herself, who is focused on self-care, who knows how to choose the right physician, what kind of tests to get, how to handle her nutrition, how to handle her fitness, is going to have a domino effect on her kitchen, on everybody who participates. Everybody comes in contact with her friends, her parents, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, daughter-in-law. And remember, some of the most important health parameters are going to be inculcated in the young woman in her family who is yet to get pregnant. Because we
Yes.
know from research, from whether it's from the Barker hypothesis or so many other research points that have been done, that the health of the individual is actually determined not even in utero, it's determined by the health of the mother before she actually conceives. So
Correct.
your risk of developing diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, etc., is determined by how well your mother looked after herself before
Yes.
she conceived.
Before I was even conceived. Yes. Correct.
This woman who is being educated and
Hmm.
she becomes confident, fearless,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
empowered. That is the communication she is going to give to her daughter-in-law, her daughter, the young girls in her family, if they choose to listen to her and follow her. And of
Right.
course, the more you embody your wisdom, the more you embody your confidence, the more likely it is that people will listen. Nobody
Hmm.
likes Gyan.
Nobody likes Gyan. That's so true. So true.
And you don't be the change that you want other people to
Yes.
embody, then they're much more likely to do it.
Yes. So true.
Why
So
do
true.
that? Meipadam does that because I have my brother and sister come and they just stop and they look at me. Oh, okay. They don't say anything, but I know they've noticed how much taller I'm standing, how my body is aligned, how it's equal, how it's balanced, and potholes don't phase me, my dog's pulling doesn't phase me. They notice, people notice.
Yes. And then they really want to inculcate in themselves, even without you telling them. They come to you, they ask, what has changed?
Yeah. How come you're strong? How did you get strong?
Yeah. So true. So, so true. Okay. So, what made you?
Sorry, I forgot to answer your question about whether
Yeah.
it's for men as well. Yes, it is for men as well. Because remember, the most immediate benefactor of having an empowered woman is the man she's with. And whether
Right.
it's andropause, and I've done loads and loads of things about andropause, whether it's men's sexual health, their physical health, and metabolic health,
Mm-hmm.
it's all impacted by the interaction they have with the women in their lives. And for many women, their wives going through menopause is the first trauma that they really, really face, and they find it difficult to get through. Most
Mm-hmm.
hormonal ups and downs that women experience, men have to bear the brunt of.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do it well, some of them, they suffer through it. But
Hmm.
certainly, the more knowledgeable and the more informed and the more aware they become of the differences between how their health is and how women's health is impacted by this period of life, then
Hmm.
the easier and the better that relationship becomes. And the better that relationship is, the happier your 30 years beyond 50 are going to be.
Nice. Yes, absolutely. So true. When the women is empowered, I think it empowers the whole family and the seven generations. That's really true, actually.
Yes.
You had also done EFT, NLP, and everything, and even they were not able to help you. I understand with the conversation that we just had, that not in the way you would have wanted them to help you. So there was something missing in those things also, which came together with WildFit and Meipadam. Then everything else made more sense to you.
They had their roles, and I still use them in my therapeutic clinics, because not every patient I see wants to or is inclined to improve their health with just nutrition. And
Right.
unfortunately, that is our time today, that there are more people who want a prescription rather than a proscription.
Hmm.
They don't want to hear your dog. Most people say, huh? You didn't write a prescription for me. It's like, I don't want to. Like, I'm giving you something that's even better. No. So,
Right. The mindset of people, actually. Yeah.
and remember that even when I studied NLP, EMDR, and EFT, there were deep psychological traumas relating to the illness and my childhood that actually led up to that back injury and the depression, anxiety, all of the stuff that I suffered afterwards. So I wouldn't say that it didn't help. It still helps, and I still use a lot of those techniques because some of them are power techniques. So they can work in the moment. And of course, the Lefkoe method is very, very powerful, and it's very effective at helping eliminate limiting beliefs. And but I do find again and again that your body is the key to healing trauma. And your body holds on to a lot of stuff.
In each and every cell, you have the memory of that trauma.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with EMD and EFT, NLP, your mind-body connection, energy work, bilateral stimulation, I realize that when any process is going on, even education, unless you start to embody it, you're living wisdom through your body, that healing process makes a big difference. And actually, WILDFIT made complete sense because it helps you heal your gut-brain connection. As it heals your gut, your brain changes, and that is magical, because to understand that just by changing what you eat, you can change your mental health. And then recently, I had an epiphany. I said, well, okay, so if you're not eating healthy, and your physical body is complaining, you've got aches and pains, and you've got swelling, and your joints are hurting, and you've got headaches, and your hair is falling out, and your skin is dry. Well, how does your brain complain? If it's not getting all the nutrition it needs, how does your brain complain? All these negative thoughts, these negative loops, the tearfulness, the so-called depression, anxiety, the judgment, the anger, irritability, that's your brain complaining it's not getting enough nutrition.
Correct.
Simple. And it was amazing, because not just as I was realizing that, I was studying a module in my lifestyle medicine course that talked about lifestyle psychiatry. And as I studied lifestyle psychiatry, I realized that when you change how you nourish your cells and you improve the nourishment, your brain is no different. Your brain is part of your whole body. So whatever you nourish, your body also nourishes your brain. But when you nourish your body correctly, then your mental health improves significantly. So they found that even in major psychiatric disorders, 60% of patients were able to either come off their medications or reduce their doses significantly. And that is a huge amount. If you consider depression, anxiety, and the sheer volume of medication that is given out to people suffering like that, anxiety disorders, inability to focus, concentrate, not being able to function normally, having, being irritable, constantly quarreling, not being able to tolerate being with other people. If all of that could be managed with good nutrition, and you don't need medicines anymore, that is amazing.
Yes.
It would be your life would be so much more peaceful, so much more focused, you'd get so much more done, you'd be so much more productive. And I've experienced that. I went from not being able to read a book to be able to read a book in a week. Now, I used to hold a book and I used to keep turning the pages backwards and forwards, because when I turned the page, I couldn't remember what was on the page.
Yes.
You won't believe it, Anshu. I went back to reading I used to love Enid Blyton as a kid.
Yes.
James
Even I have loved him.
I used to love reading James Herriot. I kept those books, and those were the books I went back to reading, because I just couldn't cope with reading the new stuff I had.
Right.
So I went back to reading Mr. Pink Whistle, Five Doubters,
Yes.
Enid Blyton, and James Herriot, and Narnia. So I went back to reading my childhood books. And the only reason I could read them was because I already knew what the story was.
Yes.
So as I did WILDFIT and Meipadam, now I can pretty much read a book in a couple of hours.
Wow, that's a major transition, I would say.
Yeah.
Major transition, yes.
That is really remarkable.
Absolutely, totally agree.
And I think what happened in this time as well is that my father got dementia. My father, he's an ex-army person, and he's he's such a disciplined person. In spite of looking after his exercise, meditation, very strict Vipassana meditator, very strict with sugar, but just not understanding nutrition and how it affects your body and how you need to deal with it. We've never eaten unhealthy, but even what we think is healthy is not really healthy.
Yes.
And he has dementia now, which I haven't been able to help to reverse. And that will be my biggest sore point, to not forget the value of this regaining of mental health that I've experienced. So I've gone from being suicidal to actually having hope. I've gone from not being able to read to being able to be productive, read, write the way I do now. I've been able to go from not being able to think straight with brain fog to be able to sit on an interview like this and talk. So on off the cuff and narrate stories and talk about stuff that's important and relevant and not be afraid.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Neelima. It makes a whole lot of a difference. And just for the audience, there might be so many people who actually don't even know what is WILDFIT. So it's, would you want to just tell them briefly what is WILDFIT actually?
So WILDFIT is a 90-day program. It was designed by Eric Edmeades. It is designed by Eric Edmeades, who's the CEO and founder of WILDFIT. And it is a program that takes you through understanding of your nutrition for your body through the understanding of nutritional anthropology and food psychology. So it also deals, it kind of bridges, he calls it closing the evolution gap. So you've got what we evolved to eat to what we're living with now, with the environment, the circumstances, and why we're not able to follow our own instructions. Like I was the gynecologist who knew everything about nutrition but couldn't follow it. So what is the psychology that's blocking, that's getting in the way? So this 13-week program takes you week by week, empowering you to make the changes that are necessary to experience the best possible health that your body can feel when it's optimally nourished. And when you realize that, and it's a deep understanding, you just cannot go wrong when because your cells, your body knows, because it starts communicating, and you start listening to your body. That is the magic of WILDFIT, is that you learn to listen to your body. You learn to give it what it needs optimally, and it helps you live your life away from this programming. You start to see programming for it, what it is, from the food industry, from advertising, from so-called healthy, because health is such a misused word today about everything, that you can have healthy biscuits and healthy fiber and healthy dessert. You can even have healthy junk food. I had a patient who said, "Oh, but the junk food we eat is so healthy." I said, "Really? Right? We make it at home." And not understanding that there is no such thing as junk food. It's either food or it's junk.
Yeah. So true.
Like this clarity comes in this 90 days where you never ever have to go on a diet again. You never ever have to worry that you don't know what to or how to eat. And you have true food freedom, because you can choose to not eat what doesn't serve you. For most of us, when something comes in front of you, the compulsion is so great to give in and to just eat it and deal with the consequences later. So with WILDFIT, you have food freedom, because you look at it and you say, "Oh, this is not food, so I don't want it."
And just for the audience, so Neelima is a WILDFIT coach. So in case you feel, it's resonating with you, you can always reach out to Neelima, and she can coach you on how to take this further on your journey. And please, Neelima, also tell us about Meipadam and Karlakattai as to, what are they, and what kind of movements are there? I mean, just a little brief on them.
So I discovered Meipadam and Karlakattai through my teachers, Dr. Jyoti Senthil Kannan. He's from Pondicherry. We call him Ashan. And Ashwin Chekava, Guru Pashupati, as he's known. His Gurukulam is in Mysore. So I attended a class last year in May with Ashwin Chekava, because I'd heard about this, and something about ancient Indian martial arts resonated with me, because I'd been practicing martial arts since I was a kid. I was a karate green belt. Even before I went to the UK, I've always been in fitness. I've been a yoga practitioner. I've done Pilates, you name it. And I've been trying to keep myself fit for many years. And that one class, I just did it. And I knew instantly that it was a culmination of bilateral movement, bilateral stimulation. It was a culmination of functional fitness, which means what people don't understand what functional fitness is really. is functional fitness is being able to live your everyday life without worrying about whether your body can do it or not. I have simple example is you come across, you're going on a trip, not necessarily a trek, but you come across a trip and you walk into one of these service stations and they only have Indian style toilets.
Right.
You don't think twice about squatting and getting up.
Right.
Of course, now because everybody's got knee joint pain.
So used to actually using the Western toilet nowadays. Now people actually think, oh, Indian toilet. No.
Yeah,
Yes.
Indian toilets are hygienic. They're so much better. And as a gynecologist with a specialization in urinary incontinence, pelvic floor dysfunction, I'll tell you that Indian toilets are much better than Western toilets.
I agree.
But functional fitness is something like this. The risk of falls increases as we get older, because our, everything in your body is gradually aging. So one of the things that happens as you get older is that you start to lose muscle mass. It's called sarcopenia of old age. The other thing that happens is that the inner ear canals that help you to maintain balance, that help you to have some kind of spatial awareness, the sensation that you get where somebody's looking at you, or the sensation that somebody's moving close to you, that awareness starts to decrease. Your reflexes become slower. Your risk of falls increases. Your ability to fall. How do you fall? How do you get up after a fall? How do you fall in the first place so that you don't injure yourself? That is all about functional fitness. And previously, I used to teach people go and learn some dance, practice yoga. And yes, there have been many, many studies that teach about the benefits of yoga, of Tai Chi, of Pilates, of dance-based movements that help you to retain your spatial awareness, your muscle strength, balance, and your ability, your ability of large muscles in your lower abdomen, lower body, your thighs, your buttocks, and your tummy. But I hadn't found something that integrated everything. So when I discovered Meipadam, I studied about it and I learned it's a 60,000-year-old art form. And it's an art form because it is the root of all classical dance form, all classical yoga vyayama, all classical martial arts across the world that you see today. So all classical martial arts that you see have a origin in Meipadam. Meipadam are the preparatory exercises that the common man did. So, for example, the farmer would have set of Meipadam exercises. The swordsman would have their set of Meipadam exercises. The archer would have their set of Meipadam exercises. You've seen the Gada, right? The Gada.
Yes, Gada. Yes.
The Gada that Hanuman holds.
Hanuman, Bhim, all of them use. Yeah.
So this practice of using the Gada in war both for bodybuilding as well as to become war fit is very, very ancient. It is part of our roots. It's in our blood, actually. It's in our cells.
Right.
And I realized it was so magical because when I started practicing Meipadam, I knew that my body knew these movements. And that was the other magical thing. So
amazing.
I know from my research from studying that, yes, your DNA and your cells carry information, but this kind of information where your body actually remembers and knows movements, that is amazing. That's absolutely fascinating. Yes. And we are so lucky that we are born in this land because we have ancestors who have preserved this knowledge through generations. And remember that when the British first invaded our country, a lot of these teachers were eliminated because their role was to build the population's fitness and ability to fight. Because in ancient times, kings had small armies. They relied on everybody in the population participating and being willing to take up arms to defend the land against invaders. So everybody was like ready, they were fit, they were functional. They couldn't say no to their king, to participate in defending their lands, their families, their women, children, etc. So even women were participating, in wielding arms, So Meipadam, after 3 months, you build sufficient strength and mobility in your upper body joints, in your lower body, your core strength, that you can then wield a Karlakattai is a wooden, similar to a Gada, but a smaller version of the Gada. And the Karlakattai is designed according to your height and weight. So it's a little bit different for women and different for men. And it's designed from specific wood, like Ashan, my teacher. He knows by looking at me, my character, my characteristics, the stuff I need to heal from, and he'll choose the appropriate healing wood and bless it in the Gurukulam and then send it to me. So not your ordinary carpenter is not making that Karlakattai. It is made from specific kinds of wood. That's why it's called a healing wood. So when you hold that wood, that tree, those optical fibers in that tree, that energy of that being, you are working with that energy. When you use those fluid movements, right and left, center, you practice, you become one with that piece of wood, you become one with the fluid movements, your lower body, your upper body, the synchronization, balance, coordination, all of that comes together. Your alignment, your body's alignment, your spinal alignment gets fixed, your psychological well-being, because you're doing your eye movements. Magically, Anshu, both Rakhi and me discovered when we started doing Meipadam, within 2 months, our numbers had reversed.
Wow.
Yeah. And me, I have had flat feet all my life.
Yes.
So I was talking to Ashan one day and saying, I've got a little bit of knee pain. And he laughed. He says, yeah, I'll give you pain in some other area so your knee can heal. We get so fixated on pain in one place, we don't allow our body to heal it.
Right.
So, okay, he says, go send me a little imprint of your feet. Anshu, my arches had come back by practicing.
Wow, that also can happen. Okay.
Yes, I'm understanding. I mean, those of the audience who are physiotherapists or they're orthopedic surgeons or they work in orthopedics or physical movement of any kind, the value of having an amazingly designed foot and arch.
Yes.
Because your arches can determine the alignment of your ankles, your knees, your hips, your spine, your neck, including any neck pain, headaches you get. It's fascinating.
Yes, it is. It is. Rakhi is saying such a wonderful connection of brain, complaining, and a true warrior. She's a brilliant WILDFIT Meipadam and Karlakattai coach. She teaches true essence of life. Right. Wow, this is beautiful. So will you be able to show us that, Karlakattai, the Gada which you're speaking about, will you be able to show to the audience?
Yeah, I'll get it. 1 second. Just give me a second. I just move the background so I can show you. So this is the heavy Karlakattai that I have.
I'll make it only you.
So this is the one that my teacher sent me first. And this is 2.5 kilograms weight. And this is the second one that my teacher sent me. This is made of teak wood. And you can see it's got all the grain on it and it's been oiled. So we oil it to keep it moisturized and functional. So when you oil it and then you hold the kattai and then you have different movements that you do. Unfortunately, there's not much space here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for showing it to us, just to get an overview of
strength. I teach when I teach Meipadam and Karlakattai, I talk about aging. And one of the most important things about aging is your wrist strength and your grip.
Right.
The grip strength determines the speed of aging.
Right.
So one thing is your walk. So fast or quickly, how balanced you are when you walk.
Right.
And the other is your hand grip. So when you practice Karlakattai and you strengthen your wrist and your grip, you're automatically sending messages to your brain to restore the connections, and it is reversing aging. Simply by practicing Karlakattai, those who are my students, they know as you improve your wrist strength and your grip, your brain strength is improving. So you're preventing Alzheimer's simply by doing this practice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Neelima. So, coming back to basically, you also help women with menopause. You have also written a book on that. would you like to actually share a few tips with women who are in that phase and maybe who are facing issues right now, or the women who are about to enter that phase? What message would you want to give to those women? What are a few of the things that they can do to prevent those issues that emanate out of that condition?
I think the first thing I want to tell is that you cannot prevent menopause. And there is a myth that, oh, does everybody have to go through menopause?
No, I'm not talking about menopause prevention, but the problems that arise out of it, where
I'm coming
you
to that.
get mood swings and
I'm
all
coming to
those.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm coming to that because there is
Hmm.
a myth that you can prevent everything about menopause.
Okay.
That's not true. The very fact that you're surviving beyond the age of 50 is something magical. It is something new.
Hmm.
It was not common for women to live this long.
Yes.
So nowadays, when you meet women who talk about their symptoms, that is also new. Just because it's happening on social media doesn't mean it happens for the common woman. So for most women, it creeps up on them, menopause symptoms. It begins around the age of 40 and they find that their periods have started to change. Then maybe as they come closer to 44, 45, they start to break out in a sweat, unpredictable sweats. Or they might find that they need to go to the bathroom every time they see a bathroom. They can't hold on for long. Then they find, oh, they don't remember things as well. There's a little bit of brain fog going on. They might not sleep so well. They might start to notice that I'm getting irritable. And remember, this is the time when a lot of women going through menopause also have teenagers who are going through puberty. And they find that the challenges of puberty, the hormone ups and downs, are almost like it kind of creates a big bang because their hormones are going up and down and they're facing all of these challenges mentally. Depression can hit someone. 30% of women will experience depression for the first time as they go through menopause. 60% of women will experience insomnia. And some of the risk factors that are not talked about, a lot of symptoms are talked about. They talk about irregular periods and hot flushes, palpitations, joint pains, tiredness, getting thyroid issues, which is also very common as women start to go through menopause. But the real risk factors are those of heart disease, of developing diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's disease,
Oh, is it?
osteoporosis and fractures. This is called the
Yes.
silent epidemic. Why? Because this significantly large number of women is going to go through this age group of 60s, 70s, and 80s. And because they're not looking after their physical health, they're not looking after their spatial well-being and muscles, they're going to experience falls and fractures because of weakened bones. And of course, because of the myth that milk is good for bone health.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that myth is seeped in very deep,
Yes.
very deep level. Yeah.
The tip is that the better nourished you are as you go to menopause, the less symptoms you'll have. I won't say you won't have any symptoms, but you'll be less affected by the symptoms you experience. You'll be less bothered by them. You're much more able to cope with them. And of course, a large part of symptoms and large part of aging is the fear of aging. So your fear is bigger than what is actually happening. As long as you know how to look after yourself, your fear doesn't have to be that big. And as you bring your fear levels down, you bring your cortisol levels down, you bring your stress levels down, you sleep better, you have better control on your appetite, you understand what your body needs to be fed, you exercise better, your mobility is better, and your mental health also improves. And you learn to tide this period because this is a period of change, right? Because the hormones are going up and down. They're gradually decreasing, but by the time you're 55, 60, they reach a low level that is stable. It's not swinging up and down so much.
Right.
So the transition period between the ages of 40 to 55 is the most crucial for most women. But you don't realize because it's 15 years long.
Yes.
For some women, it can be shorter. Other women, it can be a bit longer. Whichever kind of woman you are, you still need to look after yourself. And there is a system, to looking after yourself. So looking after your physical health, your psychological health, and your genital health. And each one of those needs different ways to address it.
Okay. And you cover all of these things in the course that you have created.
Yes. We cover all of these in there's a Master the Menopause course I do in which I teach about each one of these. I also teach about why they should learn about this and how they can take it forward in their family and to their daughters and other women in their lives. And I also give them a checklist that they can take with to their physician. How to choose your physician. How do
Right.
you know if the physician you're consulting understands menopause? Remember, we only have 50,000 in India, only 50,000 gynecologists.
Right.
We're all studying menopause.
Right.
And even if they were studying menopause like me, did they join the dots together and say, oh, this means this means this means this, how do you fix this?
Correct. Absolutely. So everything is, I think very commonsensical. If we look, I mean, if we just go by the myths that have been there in the society and we are following those myths, handling things become very difficult.
Yes. There's a lot of misinformation around because
Yes.
everybody's, and I think more than anything, even the medical community is confused because we've
Hmm.
lost touch with our evolution.
Yes.
Modern medicine has done a lot. It has done a lot for infectious diseases. It has done a lot
Hmm.
in terms of diagnosis, genetic problems,
Hmm.
cancers, surgery, advancements in anesthesia, many, many things.
Yes.
But I think the key is to help. I mean, there are how many unhealthy doctors do you know who are suffering themselves?
All of them.
Exactly, which means that it is a global problem. It's not just a problem of few people.
Yes, it is not. It is not. That's why it's called a complete incomplete. I mean, the science has come very far, but it's still incomplete because the
Yes.
universe has so much of vast wisdom inside locked up that has to come out.
And it is contaminated by the manipulation of uh, a few people who are willing to gamble with your health for their
Yes,
monetary.
pharmaceutical companies, all the yes,
It's not just pharmaceutical companies, even food industry.
food industry. Yes, yes.
Um, you can ask your audience how many of them eat Kellogg's cornflakes for breakfast.
I'm sure there must be many. I'm 100% sure
So
about
much
it.
sweet muesli,
Yes,
hmm, pizzas, Domino's, Burger
yes.
King, McDonald's, and all the canned and bottled food, packaged food.
Mm.
One of the biggest shocks I got. Remember, Bhutan is a country that is known for its gross national happiness. And
Yes,
it is
yes.
it's
I
got
had read about it.
a negative
Yes,
carbon footprint. So when I
yes.
went to Bhutan, I was like, I was on top of the world because I was going to a country that was like, yeah, this is like when I want to live in a country which believes in happiness, which believes in negative carbon footprint. And you can imagine the shock I got when I went to the ward, and on the bedside cabinet was piles of biscuits, cakes, and artificially flavored and colored fruit juices. I was probably the only doctor who asked the patients to not have that.
Right.
And it's frightening.
It is. It is. So, I mean, this is, I think, a lot of ignorance is still there. A lot of things have come out, but I think it has to seep into each and every one. So actually, that brings me to my next question also, Neelima, that in the career spanning like 3 decades, what is the major, one of the most important learnings you had with regards to human ailments in these 3 decades?
That your body is capable of healing pretty much anything if you give it the right resources, give it the movement, give it the protection it needs, in terms of your circadian rhythm, lowering, keeping your stress levels regulated, thinking about your mind and not believing everything you think. That's really important. Feeding it
Hmm.
correctly. Your body can pretty much deal with anything. And even if you come across, like 1 in 3 of us is going to get cancer. And that's just because that's what aging does. But
Yes.
if you can avoid being those 1 in 3, that's really
Mm-hmm.
accidentally, if you end up being one of those three,
Hmm.
at least your body's got the best chance it has in the years that it's got left. Because in the end, it's not how many years you're living, isn't it? It's how
It's
much
the quality of life, how much life you have in that
every day.
living.
Because if I
Hmm.
compare my life to before WildFit and after WildFit, I was not
Hmm.
living, from the time period from even before 2003 until
Correct.
2019.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure I was even living. I was existing.
Correct. Correct. Because now you can see the stark difference. So
Hmm.
you can really now understand what it means by
Yes, and it
living.
was simple. It was so simple.
Hmm.
I began to think I wish I'd done it sooner. I spent
Yes.
2 years debating, shouldn't I really
Hmm.
digital marketing gimmick? Should I really do this? Can something so simple really work? And I just wish I'd done it earlier.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I mean, I'll just acknowledge that I have been one of those and who didn't do finally, who kept debating, yeah, same thing. It must be a gimmick, and it's not as useful as it they talk about and all of that. And hearing you, I feel, oh my God, sometimes we are not able to actually take a quick decision and
I think
do things.
particularly because when I see my dad, and I think 2 years, if I 2 years before, we might still have my dad.
Right. Right.
Because his dementia started in 2018. It got drastically worse. And 2019, February was when I did my WildFit. And I'd been looking up WildFit for 2.5, almost 3 years before. So when Vishen Lakhiani did WildFit, it was, I think, 2014 or 15. And he spoke about it in 2016. So if I'd done it in 2016, my dad would still be with us. Like, he is with us, but he's not
But
mentally.
yes, yes, correct.
And that is, I think, that hurts somewhere inside
Yes,
that I didn't act.
yes, I agree. Uh, what are some of the glass ceilings that you have broken for yourself so far, Neelima? And what are the glass ceilings that you yet have to break?
Uh, I was the first glass ceiling was I was one of the first uh, Indian women to be awarded the Young Gynecologist Award by the RCOG in 1997. I was also the first Indian woman to clear the MRCOG in the first attempt in that particular cohort and to get a place in the training circuit to become a CCT holder. A CCT holder is a certificate of completion of training. Now many people get it, but I was one of the first trainees because they saw me and they took me on. And then I was the first female Asian consultant gynecologist at the women's hospital. Then I think I'm one of the very few sexual medicine practitioners in India who are women.
Okay.
And that is a career, especially in Pune, at least since I've been practicing, and that has been a practice that has kind of evolved and grown. And I've become a faculty and a teacher and many things because of that practice. Um, that's it, I think. Those are
Right.
and I think becoming Meipadam, Karlakattai, and WildFit, I think, one of the things that used to put me off trying to get into WildFit was the anti-doctor kind of doctor bashing that takes place.
Hmm.
And of course, now it's become mainstream. Like, everybody you meet is trying to tell you how rubbish doctors are and how crap medicine
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
Allopathy is rubbish and this is rubbish and that is rubbish. So in a way, kind of my tendency is to just keep my head down and not lift it up and not talk. But
Hmm.
I took the plunge and I did WildFit because I
Hmm.
wanted to prove that no, doctors do understand nutrition and they are interested in patients' well-being and they are keen to work on their own health and
Hmm.
transformation, and they do want to see the best of other people. They
Hmm.
don't. Not every doctor wants to dish out a prescription because pharma company asks them to.
Yes.
So I think I went into it with a little bit of a rebellious streak. I want to prove these people wrong.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like, obviously it benefited me a lot, but I'm sure
Yes.
that because Raki's been supporting me through all this, because she's understood the power of the knowledge and the scientific temper I bring, and my willingness to be open and explore and both study myself and the subject, and whatever I learn in a holistic fashion, so that it actually benefits other people. Because one of my strengths is being able to simplify things so that people understand it.
Okay.
And I think is the first that Raki and me, two WILDFIT coaches collaborating together, is a first. It's definitely a ceiling. And whenever Eric sees us together, he has a little smile on his face, because nobody's collaboration is as successful as ours. So he sees us
Right.
doing big things, big things.
So beautiful. Do you believe in the limitlessness of the human spirit, Neelima?
Yes,
Is everyone limitless according to you?
yes, it's a choice.
It's a choice, right?
I suppose, I think one of the biggest advantages I had of working with NLP, of EMDR, and even now, working using the Lefkoe method to address limiting beliefs, because our limiting beliefs are very deep rooted. In spite of doing so much work on my beliefs, I still come across, say, oh, hang on a minute, you're being a bit judgmental. What's the belief behind that? And then I'll do the work and I'll get rid of it. And I realize all these so-called glass ceilings are nothing but our own projections. They are projections of the limitations that we've imposed on ourselves. And
Yes.
as long as we're willing to be aware and to look at them and work through them, there's nobody who's going to stop you.
Yes.
And that process of self-evolution,
Hmm.
the faster you can do it,
Yes.
the better your life is going to be. So in this last 2 years or 3 years, my mindset, and it started with WILDFIT actually, my mindset, that just that feeling of well-being in your body gives you the ability to look at things differently. It's very hard to do
Yes.
personal growth work when you're in a lot of pain, when you're in depression. You cannot cure yourself from the situation in which you're stuck. You need
Yes.
somebody's help to do that. And whether it's a digital program, whether it's WILDFIT, whether it's been coaching with Eric, or having somebody like Raki with you, or having your parents, family, whoever it is, or having a challenge that you have to stand up to and work through. That, recognizing that is a gift that challenges you and makes you grow, that I think is the ultimate that is the thing that gives you that speed of growth. So being able to welcome your challenges is something that I've learned in these last 2 years. Has been I'm not always very good at it. Sometimes it gets me down, but then I say, no, remember, there's growth on the other side of the challenge. Remember,
Yes.
there's learning on the other side of the challenge. Remember the last time you overcame this, how amazing you felt. Yeah. So then you start looking for stuff to
Yes.
challenge yourself with, like to grow, to just become that amazing, like that limitless person of yourself. Because
Yes. Yes.
it is being not limitless something out in the sky. It's limitless in the moment. It's
Yes.
limitless in your imagination. It's limitless in your capacity.
In your decision, in the decisions that you take. Yes.
It's like Goenkaji talks about equanimity. It's like equanimity or moksha or nirvana is not something that you get at the end of your life. It is a moment to moment realization.
Yes.
And that much that you are free of your complexes, that much you are liberated, and you're stepping up, and you're stepping up, and you're stepping up. So your only challenge is always yourself and nobody else.
Nobody else.
And you're just reminding yourself, look, I can do this next step, take the next step, just the next step. That's it.
Yes.
So that's how I got through so many years.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. We finish our first round here. So we have a quick round, for just 5 minutes, called the lightning bolt round. And shall we get started with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, what is your life's biggest learning so far? Not related to your, you being a doctor or anything else. As a human being, what has been the biggest learning in your life?
My biggest learning has been to learn to love. I come from a lineage of teachers, gurus. My great grandfather was Panta Maharaj Bayakundri. And we've been growing up reading his scriptures and reciting those bhajans and his bhajan. And one of them is that he says, Premastavaha Janma Ghetala. And I never used to understand it. And there's a magazine that comes from Prema Lahari. And it's only when I started practicing Vipassana and generating Metta, and I realized, oh, so that's what he's talking about. And that experience I was talking about, sitting in his
Yes.
presence and feeling that wave of love pass through
Yeah.
you.
Would you actually want to tell the audience about this just brief?
Just this experience when Goenkaji had come to UK and he conducted a one-day Vipassana meditation class. And I remember being a very skeptical before, because till then I just attended the courses and then, but sitting in his presence while he conducted that course was my first experience of love. Just love, nothing
Where
else.
you were just flooded with unconditional, you could
That
feel the waves.
that wave that went through my body, it is incomparable. There's nothing I'd felt before and nothing that I felt after. But that memory of that and then correlating it with the verses that I've been singing since childhood and that experience I have when I go to Balakundri or I sit in the presence of my father, because my father's a very loving, he used to be very well established in Vipassana, being able to interact with him. I realized, that is the true cultivation, is to cultivate this love. And that is it. That is your minute to minute goal. How much in love are you living? How much in love and compassion are you filling yourself up with? That is my biggest learning. And it's quite amazing because I've had these insights and flashes many times. I've just not held on to it. And your question has helped me to grab it and hold on to it.
Wonderful. Who is Neelima Deshpande?
Who? Just another person. Just another human being on this planet who is going
What
through
is
this
the
journey.
essence of Neelima? Let me put it another way. What is your essence?
It's just a curious being willing to learn and be open.
Okay.
Strive for improvement and learning and evolution.
Yes.
Growth.
Right. Okay. So that's the essence of Neelima. What's the biggest difference between the Eastern and the Western culture? Give me one negative, one positive that you have seen while living here and there.
I think my biggest positive experiences of the UK were how literal they are. They're very honest, they're straightforward, and if they say something, they'll do it. One of the negatives is that people have become very materialistic and complex. They've, this whole thing about how you look and makeup and drinking and gambling and the kind of decisions that ministers etc. take. It's all very commercial and motivated by putting money in somebody's pocket.
Right.
That's a Western thing. And in India, I think one of the most positive things when I came here was the simplicity. Even our everyday common person is basically a simple person. They strive for simple things. They look forward to simple pleasures, and even if they don't have a lot, they know how to have, to express joy and giving and inclusion and hospitality and love. Sharing love is a big thing that we experience here. I think one of the negatives again is the fact that people are not honest. They'd
Oh,
rather they will say yes to your face and do whatever they want in
oh,
the back. And
yes. I think this is one of the
unfortunately,
major problems we face is here, at least in India. Yeah.
and I think for me that was a bitter learning experience that I had to relearn that just because somebody says yes doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
And I learned it in a difficult way. When people don't get back to you, they don't respond, or they say yes and then they don't say what they're going to do, or you don't hear back from them. And unfortunately, it's starting to happen like that in the UK as well. And I don't want that to happen there, because that was something that I really liked about the UK, is that when people say something, they mean it like that. Very rare that you meet somebody who doesn't mean what they say.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Who do you consider as the biggest influence in your life?
My dad, for sure. My father, and my mom also, because my mom's been the inspiration for me becoming a doctor. But I think more recently, because of my dad's dementia, and because I had the opportunity to sit with him and write his biography before he got his dementia, and to learn about the influences in his life, and then study. I mean, I've watched him as a person, and I've watched him change as he practiced Vipassana, as he, dealt with his health challenges, dealt with financial challenges, dealt with my sickness, how my parents dealt with that. And because he's been a very high-ranking officer dealing with massive projects, been a really good manager. He's had amazing people speak, so well of him, and just being able to see how strong somebody can be in themselves, and yet be so loving, compassionate, and down to earth, and be an amazing dad and an amazing husband. And even with his dementia, he is so kind and so well behaved, and he doesn't lose his temper, and he understands, like, that is something special. So, because I suppose for many people, you can put on an act for only so
Yes.
long. Eventually,
Yes.
your nature comes out. And I'm looking at my dad and I think, what an amazing person with so many challenges. Also, he doesn't lose his temper. He doesn't, nothing. He doesn't, how he speaks, how he manages himself is still good, still amazing. I hope, fingers crossed, it stays like that. I hate to see him deteriorate. I wouldn't want him to lose his dignity.
Definitely not. Definitely not. This is one of the things that I deeply feel about Neelima. Just to share, whenever when we met recently in Pune, I was sharing with a lady over there that whenever someone goes away, someone passes on, and I receive the news, the first thing I'm always thinking is, oh my God, did they go with dignity? Would they have suffered? What would have been their last thoughts? Would they have really, regretted the life that they led? So these are some things that I'm always analyzing, and I always wish for everyone that let everyone leave this life with dignity. That is one thing I wish for everyone.
Yes, yes, and that's a proposition that Dr. Scott Peck wrote about. He wrote a book many years ago. I'm forgetting the name of the book now, but one of his most famous books is The Road Less Traveled. But there's also another book that he wrote about, which talks about dignified dying, and
Right.
the group, like, the maturity of a society can be determined by how they treat the elderly and those who are experiencing death and dying,
Right.
and the compassion and the ease with which we allow that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, human beings have not yet mastered that. I think we're kinder to our animals than we are to other human beings. We
Right.
let people suffer far too long.
Hmm. What is your biggest fear?
My fear is being dependent on unknown people for um, basic things like toileting and
Right. So again, we are talking about the dignity, the human dignity, that you should
yes,
never lose your dignity.
yes, dignity, absolutely. Dignity,
Right.
dignity in life and death.
Yes. Dignity in life and death. I agree.
And yeah, I mean, again, I suppose it stems from seeing my dad. And it can happen to anybody because he's the perfect example of somebody who's looked after his health. I mean, Yami's looked after his health. He's looked after his health. He's never been negligent, never drunk, never smoked, other than high blood pressure, whatever. No major other illnesses. He's got a perfect set of teeth. Somebody like him is 89 years old. He stands straight, he's erect, but he has dementia.
Right.
So I don't want to be like that.
Hmm. Do you have any daily rituals you follow?
My rituals are the meditation, reflection. Um, I love my walks with my dog because that gives me, it keeps me sane, I suppose, walking in nature. And the Meipadam and Karlakattai. And then my sleep routine. So again, reflecting, gratitude, meditation, and then to bed, stretches. Again, evening walks with my dogs. I do enjoy having my dogs a lot.
Amazing. If you were not doing any of the things you have done either or what you're doing, what would you be doing if you were not doing any of these things?
I would either be a vet or have an animal shelter, or I'd be working in a zoo or with an equestrian center with horses. And for sure, I'd be traveling to go and meet Caesar Milan. So I love working with canine psychology.
Okay, nice. Which book are you reading currently?
I was reading The Art of War for Women. And that is Lao Tzu wrote the book Art of War. So
Yes.
there's another author, and she's written a book on Art of War for Women. So I'm reading that, and the other book I'm reading is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Okay. And any books that you would want to recommend to the audience? Some of the, maybe the top 3 books in your life, which have really influenced you, your thoughts, your patterns, everything.
Books that I kind of try to read, at least, I try and go back and read them. There's one book which is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, and I use that a lot. There's another book that I use in lots of workshops with my students, but which I always go back to because there's lots of exercises in it that I like to revise, and that's called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty.
Okay.
And that is an amazing, because it is, I think when people think about negotiation and persuasion and dealing with conflict and understanding human interactions, they think it's got to be really difficult and you've got to introspect. But a lot of it comes down to having verbal skills. And that book teaches verbal skills.
Okay.
And the last one, which I read a lot, is by Dr. Goenkaji.
Satnarayan Goenkaji.
Yeah. So the book that talks about the wheel of Dhamma, the 10-day course and the course discourses. Those three books, those books I read. I like those.
The Wheel of Dhamma.
Yeah. I go back to reading those. Like, these are like my learning books.
Right, right. You always keep referring back to with them.
Yeah. There's always like something new to find in them. Other books, there are lots. You just come and go, or I sometimes go and find a nugget in something. I'll go back to it, look up again. But these books are kind of, they've stayed with me.
They've stayed with you. Yes, yes. What do you love doing in your free time?
I love playing with my dog. I love dog training. And I'm interested in canine psychology. I used to love playing the clarinet. I've kind of not done it recently. And clarinet, piano, these are two things that I love to do. And I'm also keen on crafting. So I do a lot of sewing, and I love repairing stuff and making stuff out of scraps.
You're very talented, Neelima. Very, very talented.
I love making little, when I was stuck in the UK, I made those little crocheted and knitted toys, little soft toys. I like to do handcrafts like that involve following instructions and making stuff, and then discovering, oh, look, I made this.
How beautiful.
And making, soap making, finding something that gives like something you can give. Like recently, my brother's daughter was here, so we kind of got all these little bags in the house, and we created gift bags. We're using, both of us, we used paints and we used cut out little cards and we stuck them and we created gift bags.
So sweet. So what don't you do? The more, I'm asking you questions, the more qualities are emerging out. You do this also, you do that also. You are like a jack of all trades, and I think a master also of a lot of them.
Mastery takes dedication. You need to exclude a lot of things to become mastery in few things. So I think recently these hobbies have kind of taken a backseat because, writing the book, setting up the course, learning the creative writing, the marketing, social media, all of this stuff.
Right.
It is quite energy intensive, actually.
Yes,
Takes
it
up
is.
time. And all these certifications, qualifications, and it takes, and plus my medical practice is going alongside. So
Yes. Amazing that you're able to do so much with that.
with the Meipadam and WILDFIT, without, like, really difficult, because previously I was doing these things to just recover. I used art and I used music to recover from my week,
From all
because
the
of the
stress and
exhaustion,
anxiety. Yeah.
the stress, the despair, and the kind of, because I was in so much pain and I couldn't see a future for myself. I took refuge in art and craft and using my body, relying on the dogs. And I had a lovely dog called Cookie who passed away and during lockdown. But the role of animals in human healing is just so huge. Like, without my dogs, I wouldn't be alive today. It's a blanket chair. If I didn't have Cookie, I wouldn't have survived.
Wow, how wonderful.
So, without them, I would not be alive today. So just the fact that learning how to look after them, being there for them, learning the skills it takes to deal with rescue dogs and canine psychology, understanding animal communication, all of this stuff has been a part of my healing. That's why all of this stuff that I've done is my healing journey, basically.
Right.
It has taken this long for it to be useful to others.
End of the day, I think the saying is very correct that, just help yourself first. Once you transform, automatically, you will help others. I mean, life will become better for others all around you. That is always true. Once you transform, you cannot keep it to yourself. It automatically passes on to others.
I mean, two important, like you talked about books, but there are two important people. One of them is Dr. Fleischman, and the other is Michael Singer. Fleischman wrote a book many years ago called Physician Heal Thyself. And he wrote it for doctors who were entering into Vipassana.
Oh,
and
okay.
He wrote about how a lot of us who enter healing professions, whether you're a medical professional, whether you're in physiotherapy, whichever healing profession you enter, you heal not because others are being healed. You heal because it is healing for you as well.
Yes.
But the importance is to do the practice so that your healing can benefit others. And very recently, when I read Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, it brought it full circle. Because in the Surrender Experiment, also he talks about first focusing on your healing. It's your healing, your spiritual journey within that then allows you to help those around you without.
Yes, that is all. That's so, I mean, again, if you look at it, it's very commonsensical. If you yourself are not healed, how can you heal others? So
we do it all the time, but Anshu,
as doctors, yeah, because lost your voice.
Okay, 1 second. Is this better?
Yeah.
So thank you for telling me that, because this application, sometimes with the internet, it will stop working. So I remember all the years as a resident and, doing OBGYN and studying medicine, all the nights I've stayed up, all the nights I've gone without food or sleep, been covered in liquor, been covered in stool and urine and blood and sweat, and not had a bath and not had food for 1.5. I think of all those years and I said, well, these doctors, we're used to just running ourselves to the ground. We don't look after ourselves at all. No wonder there are so many sick doctors.
Yes.
Who are burnt out and got nothing to give.
Right. Thank you so much, Neelima. It's been such a pleasure. I mean, we learned so much from you today. And one last message that you want to leave the audience with.
Thank you so much for having me. And I think the message I would give anybody who's watching is that you have the power in your hands to transform your health and your life and your experience as you go through this journey, and expect to live long. So it's important that, whether you like it or not, you're going to live to 80. You have to believe that you are worthy of living a very fit, agile, sharp, with a life with a sharp brain and balance and strength and vitality, and believe that the way the outside world talks to you about aging is not true. It is different, and you can have it all.
You can have it all. Absolutely. I totally agree with this thought. And I think, I feel it deep within me for, I don't know how long, always had the same thought that, whatever everyone thinks is not right. And we can really have it all if we choose to. Again, it comes down to the choice.
Yeah. And some things are maybe not in your control, but you still have the choice of using that challenge to grow.
Yes, agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for asking wonderful questions, for allowing me to reflect and grow even with this experience. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I'm so privileged. Thank you so much. Been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, audience. So I hope, again, you were mesmerized and you broke out of a lot of myths that you were building around yourself. I hope this has really nudged you hard. So rethink how you're leading your life. What is the quality of life that you have right now? Are you really struggling to exist, just survive, or are you thriving? So find that difference for yourself, find where are the gaps. And, is it in your beliefs that you need to exist the same way? You need to just compromise on your health and everything and lead this kind of a life? Or do you think you have a choice now after hearing Dr. Neelima Deshpande? So I leave you with this thought. And next week, I am going to bring a phenomenal, legendary leader from the West. I will not tell you his name. You will get to know that, but keep a watch out. And I'll see you next week, and be prepared to be totally knocked off your chair. That much I can promise you. So God bless, be limitless. Good night.